Have you ever heard the phone ring and something inside you hopes it just stops? Or maybe a neighbor knocks on your door and instead of answering, you quietly freeze, waiting for the sound of footsteps walking away. You're not alone. Helen, a 68-year-old retired nurse from Ohio, felt the same way. Just a decade ago, her calendar was full. Family dinners, book clubs, weekend get-togethers. She was always there for everyone. But as the years passed, something inside her shifted. The gatherings felt louder. The conversations felt heavier. The energy to show up started slipping away. Was she becoming distant? Was it sadness? Or was it something else entirely? Here's the truth most people don't say out loud. As we age, avoiding people isn't always a problem. Sometimes it's healthy. Sometimes it's wisdom quietly arriving. Today we'll uncover 6 hidden psychological reasons why many people like Helen naturally withdraw after 60, and why that may be one of the healthiest decisions you'll ever make. Let's begin this quiet journey together. What happens when you've spent a lifetime holding everyone else together, and suddenly you're just too tired to keep carrying the weight? For nearly 40 years, Helen wore many invisible hats. At work, she was the steady nurse who calmed frightened patients, reassured worried families, and covered extra shifts when no one else could. At home, she was the wife, mother, daughter, and peacemaker, balancing birthday parties, managing family disagreements, checking in on her aging parents, and ensuring everyone else was okay. And for a long time, it felt natural. She didn't think twice. That's just what strong women do, right? But after retirement, when the noise quieted, Helen finally heard something she hadn't noticed before. Her exhaustion. You see, emotional burnout doesn't always come from major crises. It's the constant, gentle drip of managing everyone else's emotions, day after day, year after year. The weight of always listening, always mediating, always showing up. Many seniors struggle here, feeling guilty for wanting space. They tell themselves, but I've always been the one holding the family together. What will they do if I step back? But here's a truth no one tells you. You can't pour from an empty cup. Helen realized that stepping back wasn't selfish. It was survival. It was healing. She began choosing smaller gatherings, shorter phone calls, and more time for quiet reflection. At first it felt strange, almost like she was disappointing people. But slowly, something beautiful happened. The more she honored her limits, the more peace she felt. Because sometimes after decades of carrying others, the greatest act of love is finally carrying yourself. Have you ever walked into a room, exchanged just a few words, and instantly felt your whole body tighten, your energy sink? That's not rudeness, that's wisdom speaking. After Helen began honoring her emotional limits, something else became clear. She noticed certain people drained her almost instantly. People she once tolerated without thinking. Take her old friend, Marlene. For years, Marlene had been part of every gathering. She was never outright cruel, never obviously hurtful. But her conversations always seemed to revolve around complaints about her neighbors, her health, her kids, the weather, politics. No matter the topic, a cloud was always hanging over the discussion. In her younger days, Helen would sit through it politely, nodding, offering advice, trying to be supportive. That's what friends do, right? But now something inside Helen quietly whispered, "Why am I still carrying this conversation?" With age comes a sharpened sense of energy. Our brains, having processed thousands of interactions over decades, begin filtering faster. We instinctively sense when a person's presence is nourishing or quietly toxic. Science even supports this. As we age, our tolerance for negativity declines. The brain's amygdala, which processes emotion, responds differently, favoring calm over conflict. This isn't avoidance, it's protection. Many seniors don't realize they've developed this hyper-awareness. They simply start declining certain invitations, avoiding specific phone calls, or feeling relief when plans fall through. At first, they may feel guilty. Am I being unkind? Am I pushing people away? But the truth is, you're not pushing people away. You're drawing healthy boundaries your younger self didn't know how to set. Helen learned that some relationships don't need a dramatic ending. They simply fade as you step back and choose peace over emotional noise. And here's the beautiful part. As she made space by releasing draining connections, room opened up for people who lifted her spirit. Friends who brought laughter, warmth, and genuine companionship. Because sometimes, the most potent form of self-care, is simply choosing who gets your energy. What if the key to happiness after 60 isn't having more friends, but having fewer, deeper ones? In her 40s, Helen's world buzzed with activity. There were neighborhood block parties, endless school events for the kids, work potlucks, and holiday gatherings. Invitations seemed to arrive faster than she could accept them. Her calendar was full, and at the time, full felt good. It felt like belonging. But now, at 68, her calendar tells a very different story. And surprisingly, it brings her far more peace. You see, as we age, something profound happens inside us. We stop needing the crowd. We start craving the core. This shift isn't random. Psychologists call it the socio-emotional selectivity theory. When we sense time is more limited, we naturally prioritize meaningful, emotionally fulfilling relationships over casual surface-level interactions. Helen didn't need dozens of people around her anymore. She needed just a handful. The ones who truly saw her, listened, and made her feel safe and understood. Think of it like tending a garden. In our youth, we scatter seeds everywhere, seeing what grows. But with time, we learn which flowers bloom best in our soil, and we nurture those few deeply rather than trying to water everything. Yet many seniors struggle at this stage. They feel guilty when old acquaintances fade away. Should I be reaching out more? What if I seem distant? But here's the gentle truth. Not every friendship is meant to last forever. Some people were part of a season. Coworkers, fellow parents, neighbors. But seasons change. Letting go isn't failure. It's natural evolution. For Helen, her circle may be smaller now, but every cup of coffee, every phone call, every conversation carries genuine warmth. There's no small talk out of obligation, no pretending, just presence, just peace, just people who truly matter. And in this quiet simplicity, Helen found a joy far more profound than any crowded room ever offered. What if your desire to stay home isn't about being antisocial, but simply your brain asking for rest? For years, Helen thought she was simply becoming less fun. She used to love the weekly book club, lively discussions, laughter echoing through the cafe, debates about plots and characters. It was her happy place. But lately, even after just an hour or two, she'd come home feeling utterly drained, physically and mentally. The voices, the overlapping conversations, and the effort to listen, respond, and stay engaged left her exhausted for the entire afternoon. At first, Helen worried. Is something wrong with me? Am I losing my social skills? But what she was experiencing was something many people over 60 quietly face: cognitive fatigue. You see, socializing isn't as effortless as it seems. Every conversation requires processing facial expressions, tone, words, and emotions, often all at once. It's like juggling invisible balls in the air, hour after hour. In younger years, the brain handles these tasks almost automatically. But with age, even the healthiest minds experience a natural slowing in processing speed and working memory. It's not dementia. It's not a decline. It's simply the brain signaling that it now needs longer moments of recovery after heavy stimulation. Science supports this beautifully. Neuroscientists have found that as we age, overstimulation, crowded rooms, multiple conversations, rapid-fire topics can overwhelm our cognitive circuits faster than before. Even trying to follow two people talking at once becomes surprisingly tiring. This explains why many seniors, like Helen, prefer quieter lunches with one or two close friends over big, noisy gatherings. It's not avoidance. It's honoring your brain's rhythm. Sadly, many seniors push themselves too hard out of guilt. They force themselves to attend every event and accept every invitation, fearing they'll appear distant otherwise. But here's the gentle truth. Protecting your mental energy isn't selfish, it's wise. Helen learned to listen to her brain's quiet requests for rest. She began choosing simpler, calmer settings, a morning walk with her neighbor, a quiet afternoon reading by the window, and in those peaceful moments, her mind felt sharper, clearer, and truly alive. Because sometimes the best conversations happen not in noisy rooms, but in the gentle quiet you give yourself. Sometimes, it's not that you choose to pull away from people. It's that life quietly rearranges your circle for you. 3 years ago, Helen lost her husband, Robert. For over 40 years, they were not just marriage partners, but partners in life's every rhythm. Every gathering, every holiday, every Sunday morning coffee was shared. And often, the friends they spent time with were shared too. other couples, family, friends, church groups. But after Robert passed, the social world around Helen quietly shifted. Some friends remained, offering comfort and a steady presence. Others slowly faded, unsure of how to include her now that she was no longer part of a pair. At first, Helen tried to keep up. She accepted invitations, smiled politely at dinner parties, and filled empty silences with small talk. But beneath the surface, it felt different. The connections weren't the same. The easy conversations once shared between couples now felt slightly awkward, slightly distant. Grief doesn't just take away the person you love, it also takes parts of your social world. Many seniors silently wrestle with this. There's an unspoken pressure to get back out there, to keep busy, to maintain old routines as if nothing has changed. Friends may encourage outings, and family members may gently nudge for more activity. All with love, but without fully understanding the quiet ache beneath it all. But here's the truth. Helen slowly embraced. It's okay to let grief redefine your circle. Not every friendship needs to be rescued. Some connections were tied to a season, to the roles we once played, and as life changes, so does the company we keep. Helen began to release the guilt of not attending every event and no longer fitting into specific groups. Instead, she made space for different types of companionship. Quiet lunches with her sister, long phone calls with an old friend from college, and peaceful afternoons volunteering at the library. The social map doesn't disappear in grief, it simply redraws itself. And in those smaller, more intimate connections, Helen discovered something surprising. Though her world had become quieter, it had become more tender and meaningful. Because after a significant loss, what remains isn't always less. Sometimes, it's simply what matters most. When you realize that every hour is precious, you stop spending it on things and people that don't truly feed your soul. For much of her life, Helen barely noticed time passing. There was always another holiday to prepare for, another birthday to celebrate, another summer to look forward to. Days blurred into months, months into years, and somehow, decades gently rolled by. But now, at 68, something inside her had shifted. When her granddaughter asked, "Grandma, can we bake cookies next Saturday?" Helen didn't automatically think, "Of course, there's always time." Instead, she quietly felt the weight of each offer, each moment. Yes, let's make cookies. Let's make memories while we can. This is one of the most profound shifts that comes with aging. Time no longer feels endless. It feels sacred. At 25, an hour feels like a drop in the ocean. At 65, it can feel like gold. And with that awareness comes a quiet, powerful form of prioritization. Helen no longer says yes out of obligation. She no longer accepts invitations to keep the peace or avoid seeming distant. Instead, every choice passes through a simple, unspoken filter. Will this leave me feeling full or emptied? This isn't selfishness, it's wisdom. Many seniors struggle here, fearing that declining invitations will hurt feelings. But as Helen discovered, protecting your limited time is an act of love for yourself and those you share it with. When she chooses to spend an afternoon gardening in silence, it's not because she doesn't care for others. It's because she understands that her energy is not infinite. When she politely declines a noisy family gathering, it's not distance, it's discernment. The beauty of aging is learning that more isn't always better. More people, events, and noise, none compares to the richness of a few deeply fulfilling moments with those who matter most. And so Helen's days are now filled with intentional choices. A quiet lunch with her sister, a slow walk at the park, a handwritten letter to an old friend. When you realize your time is your most precious currency, you begin spending it where your heart feels most alive. What if withdrawing from the noise isn't you fading away, but finally arriving where you were always meant to be? As Helen's story reminds us, aging isn't a slow retreat, but a quiet refinement. After decades of carrying others, her emotional burnout finally taught her to rest. Her sharpened awareness of toxic energy allowed her to choose peace. She traded crowds for deep, meaningful conversations that fed her soul. She honored her brain's quiet request for recovery from overwhelming noise. Grief redrew her social map, leaving behind connections that no longer fit, while opening space for what truly mattered. And now, with the gentle ticking of time more present than ever, she spends her days intentionally. Not chasing busyness, but embracing what brings true joy. This isn't loneliness. This is arrival. Many over 60 quietly walk this same path, often wondering if something's wrong with them. But here's the truth. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming clear. You're not shutting people out. You're making room for the right ones to stay. And sometimes the sweetest part of aging is finally having the courage to live on your terms. I'd love to hear your story if this message touched your heart. Leave a comment one below and share. Have you noticed your circle shrinking and your peace growing? And if you'd like more honest, gentle conversations like this, where we speak soul to soul, make sure to subscribe and join our little peaceful corner here. No noise, no pressure, just real talk for real people. Walking this beautiful season together.